with that, welcome to the March edition of Post ProRes. I'm John Pollock, reconnecting with the man of the post himself, WH Park, as we kick off 3 straight days of WH Park. It's another WH Park extravaganza this weekend, with the long and winding Royal Road and the long and winding Royal Road of WandaVision. It all comes to a conclusion with the making of documentary this Sunday, and WH is your man for all of it. How are you, Mr. Park?
I'm pretty good, John. We've reopened the store this week, and I've been working with people and with customers in the store since Tuesday, and it's a very odd feeling since, I've been working for the last, 3 months with just, me and coworkers, usually just like me and one other person in a 4-story building, all to ourselves, just taking care of emails and denying people entry into the store. Hey, are you guys open? Nope. Go away. But now we can't say that.
Now you got to deal with people.
It's very interesting. It's a very strange feeling, John.
What's traffic like inside the store? Are people venturing out to check out the BMV?
Yep. It's I think Monday was the first day open, and Mike said it was pretty busy, and then Tuesday was pretty busy. My first day back with people in the store, and then yesterday was okay. Today was a little slower. But I think things will pick up with the weekend. So
the weather has been incredible the last few days, but I think that's about to turn, and I think it's going to get back to being cold the next few. But today, it was up to like 16, 18 Celsius.
Did you get the weather report from Brandon from New Jersey? He likes to tell people about the weather in Canada, even though he's not from here.
I've muted him, so no, I didn't.
That's a good thing. You know who other?
I'm kidding.
Brandon's in the.
I foresee the direct message coming my way.
Brandon's in the secret chat group, and so is Neil Flanagan, and Neil sent me some clips of you guys, you and Wei on Rewind to Dynamite, calling me your man, our man WH, and he was quite upset about this.
Did I call you that? Oh well,
no, Wei did.
Oh, Wei did.
Was more upsetting to Neil Flanagan. So
I did like your just shutdown of Neil last week when wait a minute, your man. He sure as hell ain't my man.
He's actually a very good friend of mine, but I cannot take credit to being like, he is you and Wei. He's your man, and I will never claim that, but he is a good friend.
Well, we have a lot to discuss this month. We're going to start with some news here for fans of Post ProRes. Going on this week through Monday night at midnight Eastern, all members of the Post Wrestling Cafe have a sale. They get 20% off the ever so limited edition Post ProRes t-shirts that are available. You can get them in black or navy blue. A hell of a design, and I certainly had nothing to do with this design, so this is my completely unbiased take on the image on this shirt, but it is also WH Park approved.
Oh, Robert Pearson designed it. He's done many a shirt for Post Wrestling, and just based off on ideas, like I wanted to use kind of like a traditional Japanese imagery, which is the Kanagawa wave, and people should look that up. It's a great image of traditional Japan done in the ukiyo-e wood block cut style of art from Japan, and I thought it turned out great, and it looks great on your body. You should buy it, people. It's 20% off the normal price, And speaking of people who've bought it and probably looks great on their bodies, we have 2 people who've already took advantage of the sale, John. I want to thank them, and one of them is, let me see here. Yes, one is Chris Elliott, whose name I see frequently.
Yes.
On related to Post Wrestling and the BDE, I think, as well. And thank you, Chris, very much. Thank you for enjoying this shirt on your body, and as well, I'm going to take a wild shot at this person's name. Please forgive me if I don't say correctly. Mariusz Shrubsinski, I think, is the name.
Nailed it.
Great. Mariusz, thank you so much for picking up the Post Perez t-shirt. And Chris, Mariusz, let me know on Twitter if you like how it looks on your bodies.
There you go. Store.postwrestling.com is where you can go. And again, all members of the Post Wrestling Cafe, all different levels, you get 20% off through Monday night at midnight Eastern. So let's dive into New Japan Cup season. The 30-man tournament this year. We had 2 buys with Evil and Hiroshi Tanahashi going to the second round. And the second round kicked off on Thursday with the advancements of Evil, who defeated Jeff Cobb, and Toru Yano beat the great Okan. So they have moved on to the Elite 8. But what are some of your overall impressions thus far, WH, just over, well, now that we're 1 round deep into the tournament?
I've quite enjoyed most of the New Japan Cup, to be quite honest with you. There's like some matches I just skipped. What did I skip? Bad Luck Fale like Toru Yano. I thought, I probably won't enjoy that. I'm pretty certain that that's going to be complete utter shit. So I skipped that. But I gotta say, like the highlight so far has been the Shingo Takagi Kazuchika Okada match. I gave that 5 stars, John. Like that to me is like perfect pro wrestling. And
one of the best matches this year. It was incredible. To me, it's definitely been the match of the tournament so far.
I couldn't believe the bumps Okada was taking. And this man has 2 slip discs and he's still working through all these injuries. But he took a superplex off the top rope with 2 slip discs in his back. And that's pretty crazy to me. And Okada is just like on a different level. But Shingo Takagi to me is a front runner for being wrestler of the year so far.
He certainly would be in that running. Do you feel that, I understand it's just the mentality and the way things are done, but we're talking about shows here that are drawing. I mean, the Oda Ward Gymnasium show did like 1,400, but that is like the high point of this tournament. We're talking like 3-figure attendances for most of these shows. Could we give Okada this tour off?
Yes. I don't think
this guy does not need to be in undercard tags where we're doing 1,000 people tops. It's not going to decimate attendance. Attendance is already decimated. I do not need to see this guy having to come out even in multi-bands on these undercards now that he's out of the tournament.
I think, with the kind of match he had with Shingo, you could have easily done a storyline where you could have, had him do a stretcher job and then have him off the rest of the tour. But I mean, you would have to apologize on every show to the fans, we're sorry he's not here if you wanted to see him, but there are ways.
We're also hoping that a decade from now you'll be able to see this guy in some form or fashion as well. So we're kind of playing the long game here.
I mean, they took him out of the tournament right away, so I don't see why he needs to. Like you're saying, John, I don't see why he needs to be on these undercard tags. Just go home and convalesce, get some surgery, maybe.
Him and Naito. I mean, they were both taken out of the first round, but they are continuing on here. Some other notable first round matches. I would say if you're going back to check anything out, I would definitely recommend Tomohiro Ishii and Sonata was a pretty excellent main event. I really enjoyed Zack Sabre Jr. and Gabriel Kidd. And what did you think of the performance of Hiroyoshi Tenzan? This might have been his best singles match in a decade.
I was really pleasantly surprised by Tenzan, really stepping up to the plate against Will Ospreay there and just showing like, hey, my generation, the third generation, as they like to call themselves, can still hang. Kojima, I thought his match with Cobb was really good as well. And
Nagata too, like the older guys have brought it in this opening round when called upon.
I think they're just trying to show, hey, we can still go. And, with that being said, John, like Minoru Suzuki versus Tomoaki Hama, holy shit.
Oh my God.
What a renaissance.
That was Honma easily his best performance since he came back from the neck injury. I thought the same thing. Like this was Honma of 2014.
And conversely, John, like one of the shittiest matches I've seen was Toa Henare versus Jay White. And I'm gonna put equal blame on both. Like, I don't think Henare like really took advantage of the spot.
I thought it was really disappointing. I think if you're going to give any credit in that match, to me, it was Jay White, because to me, it was the biggest match of Henare's career. And I did not think, he took advantage of it. Like I was disappointed in that match because that was one that stood out to me as like, that's a huge match for him. And yeah, I did not think it really reached that level or anywhere close.
Yeah, and for me, it's just like same Switchblade match. And I'm like, I tuned out. I was just like bored of it right away. I was like, come on, Henare, you can do it. And nothing happened. And we'll see. I really feel sorry for this guy. I really think there's so much potential. He's just been kind of snake bitten by the pandemic last year and other things. So hopefully things turn around for him later this year.
What are you looking for? Kind of what are kind of your short list of predictions for who's going all the way here?
I'm looking at the left side with like Takagi, Suzuki, Kenta, Goto, Yano, Evil, and I'm really feeling Shigo Takagi here, John.
I think he certainly has to be the favorite on that side of the bracket. I'm figuring we get Takagi and would you say Kenta in the next round?
Yeah, I'm really going for, like Kenta's. I think also on a roll, especially character wise. I think he's one of the more compelling, personalities in the company. And I liked his match with Juice Robinson. I thought that was a really great performance from him, and Juice was good in there. I think that's one of Juice's best performances since coming back, because of the pandemic and stuff like that. I'm going with Takagi as the finalist on the left side, and then the right side's a bit more open, in my opinion. I'm thinking either Sonata or Ospreay are kind of the favorites. Like I'm looking forward to this semi. I think it's a semifinal. I think David Finlay's going to go over Yoshihashi, and he's going to face Jay White, who's going to go over Tanahashi. And I'm really looking forward to that, because I do think like Finlay and Jay White have, because of their history together, have some really interesting chemistry. And then, maybe it's David Finlay's time finally to kind of just get a push in this company. I think he's looked great. I think he's in the best condition of his life, and his wrestling is really, really on point as well. And I haven't seen any of his Impact stuff with Juice as a tag team, but like I'm sure, having all that experience has really helped him a lot. But I'm going to go either it's going to be Ospreay or Sonata in the finals with Takagi. I think they might want to do the rematch with Takagi and Ospreay again.
That's my thinking here. Do you think that's too big to do that for the final here in the New Japan Cup? That's what I'm leaning towards is that, and either winner you can go with to headline Sumo Hall in April.
I mean, too big. I mean, we're going to talk about these two shows they're going to do, John.
Well, yes. They have some ambitious plans and a strange time to be doing it. But just quickly to update the schedule. So on Saturday, it's Shingo Takagi and Hiroki Goto on the same show as Minoru Suzuki and Kenta. So those should be two really strong matches. Sunday is Ospreay, Zack Sabre Jr. and Yuji Nagata against Sonata. That's another excellent pair. And then Monday at Korakuen Hall is Tanahashi, Jay White, and David Finlay, Yoshihashi. So probably going to get some great wrestling throughout the final stretch of this tournament, given the names, especially on that right side of the bracket.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're doing the Sabre, Ospreay rematch, Nagata, Sonata. I think that should be good. John, I'm just excited to see like Takagi versus Goto. Two of my favorites.
This is New Japan, I think, really trying to reach like the WH Park demographic. I mean, this is to me the most engaged you've sounded in like New Japan booking in some time.
Well, I put out a tweet like how much I've enjoyed recent New Japan, and I'm to be honest, like I really, one thing I do that helps a lot is like I skip the undercard matches because I don't watch any of this stuff live for the most part, and just the less Bullet Club I watch, the more excited I get about New Japan. And like it's funny because like all the stuff I get excited about is just like wrestling. That's because they're really good at it. It's because they have some really awesome wrestlers on their roster. And when I just see them doing wrestling and no bullshit, it's amazing how much I get engaged with the company. I think there's a lot of people who think the same way I do.
It's been such an albatross for Evil. Like watching the Jeff Cobb match, it was for the betterment of the match. They had Cobb work pure babyface in the match, but it was still all the usual antics with Dick Togo. And it's such a killer. It's just grinds the match to a halt for me. And I think Evil, more than anyone, I think suffers from it. I mean, I'm not as affected by it watching Jay White, but with Evil, I just think like this is a guy that has hit a wall for me with any kind of momentum that this heel turn has brought upon and where he's positioned now. He just feels like a very cold character.
And I can say about, Jeff Cobb, like been a little critical of recently, but I have really enjoyed this stuff he's been doing since he's joined up with Ospreay and Great-O-Khan. I think being kind of a more aggressive wrestler and being less of a babyface has really, really helped him, because that's more akin to like his character that he had in Lucha Underground, which I thought was some of his best work. And that was earlier,
He was great as Matanza under the mask. I thought he was tremendous.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just think with Cobb, they need to just push him as this killer, and he just needs to like really step up and bring out that kind of more aggressive side to his personality.
Before we move on to these show announcements, the last thing, how is the experiment of the great Okan going for you? We kind of had the two extremes in this tournament. He gets the big win over Naito, and then he falls to Toru Yano in the second round. But overall, with this character, he's a major project for New Japan. How is it going so far?
I like him, to be quite honest with you. I don't mind his gear. I tend to think he should just keep wearing the pants, the baggy pants, instead of wearing the trunks. If he ever turns like a serious wrestler, okay, go to the trunks and just be a serious wrestler. But as his character, I think he should wear the pants all the time. I tend to think he's the more important member of United Empire more than Ospreay is. And I like when he's teaming with Cobb. I think they would make a really excellent tag team. And New Japan is actually quite, quietly developed a really strong roster of tag teams. But the unfortunate thing is they don't book tag teams very well. But I think there's a lot of promise in him. I thought the Naito match was great. I think people just can't get over his look. And I understand that. I'm totally on board with you have to judge people by their aesthetics as well. But there's something about him that I think there's promise in him. I don't think he's a main eventer yet, but I think there is enough potential in him that he could get there someday.
So, at the anniversary show, they made the announcement that this coming May, they have booked not one, but 2 stadium shows. On May 15th, they're running Yokohama Stadium. And not to be outdone, 14 days later, they will run the Tokyo Dome on May 29th for Wrestle Grand Slam.
More like Wrestle Failure. I mean, that thing's not going to do any business, John. What are they going to put in the main event of either show? They don't have anything that's going to draw a stadium.
What can they, how many people can they put in to the Tokyo Dome right now? What are the restrictions? I thought it was a max of 5,000.
I don't think they're going to get 5,000.
Why would you want only 5,000 people in the Tokyo Dome? 5,000 will look terrible in there.
I don't know why they're running the Tokyo Dome more than once a year. Or in this case, 3 times a year now.
Unless they're getting even a sweetheart deal on the rent for this thing, it's still to me visually going to be I don't care what it's look what they're drawing right now. This is hardly a great, even what they are able to put in there. You look at what they just drew at Osaka Joe Hall, the first night they are not drawing well, even by the limits of capacity. They are not hitting that. So this is extremely ambitious to just throw in not 1, but 2. And yeah, to your point, you have to do this big title match April 4th and then set up some big stuff for these shows in May. It's a very curious decision of why now? And 2 of them.
I just think I think you hit the nail on the head. They're getting some kind of sweet deal from the Tokyo Dome and from the Yokohama Stadium. I mean, that's a baseball stadium. That's an outdoor baseball stadium. They better hope the weather's okay, for one thing. The Tokyo Dome, I just don't it just reminds me back of the early 2000s, John, where New Japan was just running the Tokyo Dome every quarter, and it was the start of their downfall. And I'm not predicting that this is the start of their downfall, but
maybe they'll bring back Ultimate Crush, WH.
Ultimate Crush. Oh yeah. We think they can he's in bad health. I'm not going to say anything bad about Antonio Inoki, but the philosophy of that era, which didn't serve New Japan very well. I'm not saying it's a return of Inokianism into New Japan, but there's some really weird business decisions in that company. And it's funny. I think a lot of this coincides with the departure of Harold May. I don't know if there's a relationship between let's do these shows that are really ill-advised and not well thought out, and the departure of Harold May from the company. Who knows? Maybe he was hey, let's be more fiscally responsible. Let's reel it in. And maybe the other people were let's go forward. We need to go forward with everything.
Well, I just wonder that if this is a case that these stadiums were somewhat booked recently, how much this throws a curveball into whatever your booking plans are. To me, you have to put in something big. And if that means, putting your Ibushi Okada match and ramping it up to do in May instead of that being a focal point coming out of G1 or something. Like, you do have to put a really significant main event into these two stadiums.
I don't know what that is. Like, they haven't built anything.
That's it. It's like you are working with the roster you have, and it's going, like, I don't know what you can even hotshot that. Again, we may only be talking about drawing 5,000 people, but it's just a very curious decision that you would want to hotshot something where it's a limited amount of audience anyway, and it's a very strange decision to be making.
I think the only thing, to my mind, that would pique people's interest enough to go to another Tokyo Dome show this quickly after Wrestle Kingdom would be if the forbidden door is wide open, John, and Kenny Omega, Ken-chan shows up to fight Ibushi. And he collects another belt, which would be like, for me, I would just be like, hate that. But you know,
but you know what? Like, even if they agreed to this, AEW's got that pay-per-view the day after this Tokyo Dome show. So it's not even a case where they could send any of their key talent over here, which would require your 2 weeks of quarantine. Like, the other way around would make a whole lot more sense of Japan talent being sent to the US, where you don't have those same restrictions to get into this country. But I don't even think that's a card you can play.
I mean, that I'm just trying to tease all the AEW fans that are listening to this with
well, I'm sure people are thinking that direction of like, what can you put in some of these cards, and people are going to be speculating about something like that. But
outside talent, like, that's the only thing I can think of that but even then, I don't know like what would be a big enough like outside talent match that, like, someone from Noah. I don't think that's happening. All Japan. I as much as I love All Japan, I don't think there's anything there. Like Miyahara versus Ibushi, or Okada maybe versus Tanahashi, but I don't know, John. Like, I don't think those are very likely. So
we haven't talked about this yet, but I just want some of your thoughts on what they're doing with the IWGP World Heavyweight title, because if you're not up to date, Jay White beat Toa Henare. And then he said he's going to go all the way, win this New Japan Cup, and beat Ibushi. And then he's going to separate the titles. And his plea to Hiroshi Tanahashi in the next round is, lay down for me so that I do this and therefore preserve your history. So somehow Jay White has this power to separate the titles. Apparently Tanahashi doing this exact same thing. He cannot. He has to live vicariously through Jay White being able to do this. Where are you at on this unification storyline and what they're doing with it?
I think it's really become more convoluted than it already was with the inclusion of Jay White into it.
Like, does anyone have the power to just win this title and then they can magically create two belts out of it again? That's not a unification. That's just simply that's not a unification if you can just separate the titles again.
Did he get the new belt? I don't know. I
don't think we've seen the new belt yet. No.
So it's still two belts. So maybe Jay can separate them. I don't know. I think the whole unification is stupid. I think they should have had Naito win the IC title. They're perfect. Get yourself out of this corner you have painted yourself in for the last year as far as these two belts go. I don't like it, John. I'll be honest. Like, I don't like this idea of like starting a new lineage. And so what are you going to do for the opening montage of champions? Like, just start with fucking Kota Ibushi by himself?
That'd be foolish to get rid of that. I mean, that would just be so silly. I don't think anyone's going to disregard the lineage, but to take a drastic step where you're not acknowledging, like, that is just so, like, there are companies that, I mean, do not embrace their history, but New Japan is not one of them. And that to me is such a great thing to have, is when you had that history to link a title that goes all the way back and you can go through all the champions. I mean, it sets the context of the match right there for you, that here are these performers on the shoulders of those that had come previously. And that's such a great, like, that video is just so synonymous with these big title matches. I think it'd be so foolish to get rid of that.
Oh, I mean, look at the names that you see there. Muto, Chono, Hashimoto, and then like Vader. Bob Sapp. Well, he was a huge public, crossover star.
It was like, if you didn't live through Bob Sapp, I mean, he's a bit of a, joke now, but I mean, the man was at a level of popularity few have experienced, in the Japanese combat sports realm.
But it's such a shame. Like, if you don't have like, and then what about the IC title? Like, you're going to combine the two and just form one? I don't know. It's just, I'll wait to see what actually happens with the John, but I just separate the belts, and just, if you're going to do one, then do what they say. Used to say, we're going to seal this title, right? And that means they would just merge it with the heavyweight title. And so just seal the IC title, then that's fine. Like, and then bring up the Never title. Like, I think being on Tanahashi and previously it being on Takagi really elevated that belt a lot. And it could be your new IC title. I think Tanahashi made this comment, like, he wants to elevate the Never title to IWGP status. So like, maybe at some point he's going to change the name of that to reflect it being more like the IWGP something title. And it keeps the lineage of the Never Championship, and then it could be your secondary title, which is fine for me. But just don't get rid of the heavyweight title lineage.
We also had the crowning of El Desperado as the new junior heavyweight champion, with Hiromu Takahashi out for a long period of time with a torn pectoral muscle. And how did you feel his performance went with the match with Kota Ibushi? I thought they did a really strong job at Budokan.
I'm a big fan of El Desperado. I thought the match in the three-way where he won the title was great. I think, any match where I actually, give anything with El Fantasma a 4-star rating is like, it has to be great. And that I credit all that to El Desperado. But I thought his performance with Ibushi was great because I felt he belonged there with him, like, to me, it's like he's someone like you could make your junior ace for the duration that Hiromu Takahashi is out, have him have like a great, title defense run. And then eventually you can bring him up to be a heavyweight. And I think he's so charismatic that he could easily just put on a little bit of extra poundage and fit in with everyone else in that company. And I think he would be both a great babyface and he'd be making excellent heel in that company. And you need credible heels who actually wrestle. And he'd be an excellent addition to that.
Yeah, I think that it's tough to look at a silver lining when a major star is out for that amount of time, but it does feel like this is going to be Desperado's division until Hiromu comes back. And you've created a big match for Hiromu to come back to and kind of build up this junior heavyweight division in his absence and find some, credible challengers to really put a lot of emphasis, because that certainly was the tone that was being set this year, was this junior heavyweight title being a main event title.
Yeah, I'm excited to see, who steps up. I think, Desperado versus Sho Tanaka has the potential to be a really great matchup, which is something I think they'll do. I like them to clear up the situation with the junior tag titles. I think him and, Kanemaru can lose those belts. Kanemaru can take the pin and just free Desperado to be a single star.
Well, that is going to conclude the New Japan portion of the show, and we're going to shift focus to the card that ran at Budokan Hall the day after New Japan's anniversary card, and that was Stardom with their All-Star Dream Cinderella event, marking their 10th anniversary, that drew 3,318. That was the announced attendance, which was slightly above the New Japan show of the day prior, and this was pretty excellent show and airing on pay-per-view in Japan as well.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this show. Do you know, March 3rd is actually a holiday in Japan, John? It's Hinamatsuri, and Hinamatsuri means like girls' festival. So Hina means like princess kind of in Japanese, and then it's a celebration of daughters and girls in Japan. Like, so if you and your family lived in Japan, John, you would have to buy these dolls and put them out in your living room. And it's a very elaborate setup. I'll send you the link to the Wikipedia article later, but
okay.
It can be a very expensive, ceremony for Japanese families, but it's really interesting. So I thought it was really nice that, Stardom's 10th anniversary show at Budokan was on Hinamatsuri Day. And outside of one thing, which was the Battle Royal, I thought this was from top to bottom, an excellent show. And I thought the culmination of one of the best storylines, which was the Julia versus Tam Nakano feud, and just a really emotional ending to that feud. And, let's talk about it. Let's just get the Battle Royal out of the way. It was called an All-Star Rumble. And I'm not a big fan of like battle royals in general, John. It's one of my least favorite gimmicks in wrestling. But the problem with this one is that they decided to include in this, Joshi battle royal, like tons of, prominent women in the industry, in the scene. And then they added comedy male wrestler Kikutaru, who is doing kind of like a pervert gimmick. He's trying to touch women's breasts. He ended up touching the breasts of like, Chikusa Nagoya, like who's, she's a legend, one of the Crush gals. And I just was watching this. I just like felt so uncomfortable. And why? Who fucking booked this? Like, was this Hirose Ogawa? Is he this stupid? I don't think he is, because like he's a pretty good booker in general. But if you're gonna watch the show and you haven't seen it yet, just skip that. It's not worth the time. And it's just left a big feeling of uneasiness after having to watch that on this otherwise excellent show.
So you were posting your match by match reviews, and it was almost in sync with when I started watching the show, but I was a match behind you, and I saw your warning of the battle royal, and I looked at the length of this show, and I was like, life is too short. I am skipping this battle royal. I can save that time, and I just skipped it over. So I had a very positive viewing experience of this show because there was no battle royal to bog down this show for me.
If only I had someone like me, John.
There's only one WH Park, unfortunately. That burden is on your shoulders. But the opener, Azumi and Natsupoi for the High Speed Championship. This one went 7:43. This was as solid as of an opener as you're going to get. They just were fantastic together. It culminated with a straightjacket bridging German by Natsupoi to win the High Speed Championship. But these two just immediately set the pace for this show, and this is like the best under 8-minute opener you could ask for.
I think every company in wrestling should strive to have an opener, especially for like something that's on pay-per-view or as big a show as this, with that Natsupoi and Azumi did on this show. And it's funny. I look at this time, John, 7:41, and I feel it's like, I felt both longer than that, but not in a bad way. It felt like it was more like a grander match than like a 7:41 match would be. Natsupoi is just, I've been a big fan of her, since she was in Stardom originally, and then she left to do, TJPW, and she did a bit of Actress Girls as well. So I was really happy when she returned to the company, and, being part of Donna Del Mundo, and she and Azumi just gelled really quickly. And I think, Azumi, as, she's a Stardom trueborn. You can see like they have big plans for her, like down the line. The next 5 years, she's going to be on a level with like Mayu Iwatani and like what Io Shirai was in the company. And just keep an eye on her. She's as she gets older, it's going to be even more clear that her and Starlight Kid are going to be like the big stars of this promotion.
The next match was for the Goddesses of Stardom titles, with Himeka and Maika defending against Natsuko Tora and Saki Kashima. So this was Donna Del Mundo versus Oedo Tai, and it ended with this double chokeslam by the champions delivered to Tora, and then Maika pinned Kashima with this Michinoku driver that they explained was taught to her by its namesake, Taka Michinoku.
Yeah, Maika comes from JTO, Just Tap Out, which was, Taka's new promotion after he was kicked out of K Dojo, the promotion he founded, and then they became 2AW, and she was a trainee, and then she, joined up with Stardom, and then she's now a contracted wrestler with Stardom. She was trained by Taka Michinoku. I like this match. I don't think it was great or anything, but it was short. It was under 8 minutes as well. And I gotta say, one thing I really liked about this match, John, was all the gear. Everyone looked amazing. I think Natsuko got some new gear. She looks way better than before, and Saki always looks good. But yeah, I like Maika especially. She's really stepped up her gear game. Well, chef's kiss to everyone in this match for that.
It was like prevalent throughout, and it's like you can't really compare the two, but it was like just watching, New Japan show the day before their anniversary show, and this one, it's like for New Japan, it's just another stop in like the never-ending tour. And this, it totally had the feel of, this is the biggest show in company history. And you really, to me, lent into the significance of running Budokan Hall for Stardom. And it just felt like just such a bigger, more important event than, the day prior.
I love the production of this show, like the sets that they created for it and kind of how they were shooting it. I just thought, wow, this does feel like a big deal. And like you're saying, John, like for the 49th anniversary for New Japan, is just like, oh, it's another show. Yeah, it's not Wrestle Kingdom, but it's on our calendar.
There were some videos sent in from Io Shirai and Kairi Hojo, Kairi Sane, Hiroshi Tanahashi also sent in a video. So those were our cameo appearances, but not appearing live was
and oddly enough, it was Hiroshi Tanahashi who had the best hair.
Yes, he definitely did. Maybe he's gonna have to put that hair on the line to fill one of these stadiums. That might be all they can have.
No one wants to see that, John. No one wants to see Tanahashi lose his hair.
There would be tears in the crowd, I think.
There would be tears in my house.
Momo Watanabe versus Nanae Takahashi. So Takahashi, 42 years old against the 20-year-old Watanabe. They had a pretty intense match here. Takahashi won with the 1 second X, which is a sit outside power slam, with a chicken wing applied. They went 10 minutes and 21 seconds. They exchanged, B drivers as well, throughout this. And, it was essentially the story here of, the older veteran, coming back and outdoing the younger Watanabe.
So, they played a video before this and showing kind of like explaining the history of Nanae Takahashi and Momo Watanabe. So, Nanae Takahashi, for people who don't know, she formed the promotion Seedling, with, Yoshiko because of the Aki Asakawa incident, and, Yoshiko had to leave Stardom. And so Nanae Takahashi took her side and they formed Seedling together. So this is kind of Nanae's return to Stardom. But like, when she was in Stardom, she was one of the trainers in the company. And, Momo was a young, teenager being trained to become a wrestler. And she would lose matches to people like, Kairi Hojo and Io Shirai, but also to Nanae Takahashi. So this is kind of like, they were playing up this whole idea of like, well, I've been waiting years to get my hands on you, in terms of like Momo thinking this. And this is my favorite match on the show, John. I thought it was so intense and violent, and just to me, it really illustrates like Momo being kind of put on the wayside by Bushiroad for some of the other talents on the roster. It's a real shame, because I think Momo's so different from everyone else in this company. And she proved like she's as good a wrestler as anyone. And there's a point like, when she beat Io Shirai for the Wonder of Stardom title and ended Io's like kind of legendary run with that belt, like that, I thought, okay, she's the next Io Shirai of this company. And then like Bushiroad took over and they wanted to focus more on, kind of the idols, of the company, like, Mayu and at the time Hana Kimura, and then Julia stepped in. But I think you can push Momo Watanabe, and her work alone is going to make her fit into the upper echelon of Stardom.
Shuri versus Konami for the SWA Undisputed Women's title. This started off with like a lot of grappling, and we got a draping DDT off the top by Shuri, and then Konami rolled to an armbar, and it ended here where Shuri's selling her left arm. There's all these submission attempts by Konami, and then goes back to the stretch muffler, which she calls the White Tiger, and ends up with the tap out at 8 minutes and 20 seconds here, but certainly heavily grappling based match. And this was a match that I think had like its own distinct flavor from everything else as well.
Yeah, this is the one that I was a little bit disappointed with, because I was expecting more. For one thing, I think both Konami and Shuri have shown that they're really excellent grappling style wrestlers, and there's a lot of story between Konami and Shuri, because Konami was the apprentice of WWE's Asuka when she was in Japan as Kana, and then one day Kana says to Konami, and who's living with her in her house, by the way, says, "I'm going to WWE, bye." So, Konami's kind of legit devastated by all this. And then she gets taken in by Shuri, who takes her under her wing. And I think she moves in with Shuri for a while. And so there's this whole personal history between these two. So I was like, oh my God, they're going to have like 15 minutes of just like beating the shit out of each other. but it didn't happen. And so I was kind of disappointed. I think there's a better match from both of these women. And I think it can go 15 to 20 minutes. And I'm just hoping that please do that sometime down the road and just make it for like anything. Could be for this title, which I'm not a huge fan of, or it could be for the Wonder Stardom title, or no title at all. I don't care, John. I just want to see Shuri versus Konami again, but with like a longer time limit.
I can see that. I mean, this was, certainly one the matches that we're going to get into, you could see like where the time was going to be allocated for the kind of the big three on this show, which were coming up, starting with Mayu Iwatani and Yoshiko, that we have discussed the whole backstory of this and setting up this match and pros and cons for it. But I'm going to say, WH, the end result was a pretty phenomenal match. I thought this was pretty excellent, and you can say what you want about Yoshiko. She played like the bully role to a tilt here, and I just think Mayu Iwatani might be the best babyface underdog, regardless of gender.
Oh, I wouldn't disagree with you on that front. I think Mayu is so great.
She was the perfect person for if you were going to book Yoshiko for a match on the show. I think Iwatani was perfect for what she represents in Stardom and how she can play off of Yoshiko. I thought this worked really well.
Oh, I love this match as well. And, I'm kind of getting slowly over my distaste for like Yoshiko and stemming from the Aki Yasukawa incident, but they played off each other really well. This was a great match. I rarely recommend people watch this. Maya is just fantastic. Her ability to draw people in with her selling and her facial expression is like, I can't think of anyone like in any part of the world who's as good as her. Like maybe Tanahashi was like this before, but like I think she's eclipsed like so many people in all of wrestling. When I read that tweet of yours, or it was in one of your reviews, I think I just thought, yeah, John's nailed it right in the head.
Mayu had this frightening dive onto Yoshiko on the floor. I thought she was dead. She was grabbing her head after this, and it was like the most frightening looking dive.
She's crazy. She does like her crazy, spots to the outside and from, I'm just glad she didn't decide to like roll down the stairs of Budokan Hall.
She also absorbed these huge strikes and just collapses. There were these short arm clotheslines. Mayu kicks out at one. Then we go into the stretch of near falls. And then there's the dragon suplex hold by Iwatani. Only gets a 2 count before she wins with the moonsault press. 15 minutes and 8 seconds. I highly recommend this match. I thought it told a fantastic story. And I just thought this was a big success. And I had my reservations. Like I'm not crazy about what this is necessarily saying, and using Yoshiko, it's a really, really awful incident, but I can't deny that the match was a fantastic one that these two had.
Yeah, I definitely go my highest recommendation as well, along with like the Takahashi Watanabe match.
Now, can you explain like what happened here in the post match? Like she addressed Yoshiko. It came across like it was almost like her kind of extending the olive branch to Yoshiko. That's how I took it.
Pretty much, like, cause like they of course have a large history together, and like I think one of the key points with them was that if you saw like Damon Abraham's like documentary about Stardom, you learned a lot about Mayu's personal history and how she became a wrestler, her troubled like youth, and there were times like I think Mayu wanted to quit being a wrestler, but Yoshiko said no, you have to be a wrestler, you're destined to become a great wrestler, and she's credited Yoshiko for like kind of saving her from leaving wrestling. So it was kind of like, I thank you for having this match with me. Thank you. Like you left Stardom because of this incident. You formed another company, but you came back to have this match with me, and like Budokan Hall, like, it meant a lot to Mayu. And I think, like they kind of reconciled, maybe legit on stage in front of anyone. That would be really cool. But I don't think this is the last we'll see of Yoshiko in Stardom. I think you're going to see a lot more cross promotion with both Seed Ring and Stardom and maybe the Marvelous promotion. I would love to see like more Takumi Iroha in Stardom as well. So like, let's hope that that's in the cards for the rest of 2021.
Yeah. And she had some fantastic matches with Mayu last year. Utami Hayashishita and Saya Kamatani for the World of Stardom Championship. This was like great. It was, just under 16 minutes they went. Some of the highlights included, Utami going to the floor and Kamatani landed a Tope Con Hero and then immediately had to get some water to refresh. Kamatani then hit a Canadian Destroyer. There was a Star Crusher, only getting a 2 count for that. And then Utami is going for the hijack bomb. It's countered with a Rana hooking the leg. She kicks out. And then there's a spinning hijack bomb and Hayashishita retains the title in 15:48. Utami has only been wrestling 2.5 years. Kamatani's been wrestling for a year and a half. And that is phenomenal.
Yeah, do you remember seeing her last year, John, at Shinkiba First Ring at the Stardom show we went to?
And you were telling me that she's been wrestling for less than a year.
Yeah, and now look at her. Like, I thought she had potential. I didn't think she would like get this far. Like, where I thought, well, she belongs in this world title match with, Utami, who is just like a prodigy at wrestling, I feel. The only problem with this match for me, and, it's a minor one, is that I didn't think there was any danger of Hayashishita losing the title to Kamitani.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But they still had a really well-worked match, and Kamitani also great job as the underdog babyface in this match.
Yeah, I'm just blown away where she is in her, and really it goes for both of them. Like, we're talking like Hayashishita's this veteran. It's like, Jesus Christ, she's been wrestling since like 2018. That's insane.
It's really, I think, a testament to like the training system they have in Stardom and how they develop their young talents to kind of like really, progress very quickly. Like, they're not spending like 5 years of their career as young lions and hoping for an excursion to go somewhere and then come back repackaged or anything. Like, from the get-go, they're kind of like, okay, this is where we see you, and then we're going to put you in factions. We're going to have you be mentored by the veteran wrestlers on the card, and they're going to take part in your training. And, I do believe, like, Milano Collection AT, he does help come into the Stardom Dojo to help train a lot of the talent there. And, with certain wrestlers, you can see, they're using more grappling that he's well known for. So it's really cool to see that. But the base has always been there for like producing like amazing talents, like Mayu and Kairi Sane are like two examples of like the success of that dojo system that they have.
And then Hayashishita was confronted by B. Priestley, and that sets up a title match for April the 4th with those two.
Yeah, I don't think there's any danger Tommy's losing that belt. I think they're probably going to build to her versus Julia for the World of Stardom title.
I could certainly see that. Yeah. Julia and Tam Nakano was the main event, the big match for the Wonder of Stardom title, hair versus hair match. And early in the match, a table is set up on the floor by Julia. They got on top of this table, and Julia lifts Nakano as the table's legs are shaking. This was incredibly frightening to watch. And she hits this pile driver, breaking the table. But my God, could this have gone terribly wrong?
Good thing Tony Storm wasn't in the building.
This was, the magic touch would have broken this thing. So there's a tiger suplex for a 2 count by Nakano. And then she holds on to Julia's wrist, and they get into this big slap exchange. Julia puts her hands behind her back just to tell Nakano to strike her. And then Julia retaliates, and she slaps this woman so goddamn hard. I thought she was just going to crumble, and that was going to be it. If ever there was a finish you would buy off of a slap, this was it. There's this brutal-looking Michinoku driver, and then Tam Nakano hits the Twilight Dream for the victory at 18:56. The new Wonder of Stardom champion is Tam Nakano. And yes, Julia got her head shaved. And this was we're just going to cut off the sides. No, she got her whole head shaved. And they put up the video now of like her new look. I've got to say, WH, I don't think the bald look is a bad one for her.
No, it looks fine. I mean, I think it's a chance for her to develop a different kind of side of her, like a new character, and give herself a harder edge until like eventually her hair is going to grow out, obviously. But I thought, as great as Julia is, and I've been a big proponent of Julia from the get-go, from her start when she jumped over to Stardom from Ice Ribbon, and I thought, oh, star. She's a star. She's going to be main event person. She was my most
improved last year of like anyone. I thought, where she was when we saw her at the Tokyo Dome to the end of the year, like it was quite the transformation she had.
But you got to give tons of credit to Tam Nakano. Like she has really stepped up from this, kind of lower card wrestler from when I first started watching Stardom maybe 3 years ago to developing into being a member of Oedo Tai, leaving Oedo Tai, being paired up with Mayu in Stars, and then forming her own group, the Cosmic Angels, with two other wrestlers, and then to this program with Julia that's been kind of simmering for the last year or so. I think, Tom kind of inherited it after the death of Hana Kimura. Like, I do think like if I do think like Julia would have been paired with Hana in a storyline for the course of the past year if Hana didn't die. But, the other thing is Arisa Hoshiki, who was the previous Wonder of Stardom title holder, she retired without losing the belt. I think this was a storyline that was probably going to be for them and be over this title. So it's really interesting to see how, fate kind of put these two in this position together, and they just produced like some magic, for lack of a better word, John.
So that was the show. It was a really strong show, and they've now put it up on Stardom World. So if you want to go check it out, I highly recommend the show. I thought just a home run show in terms of, such a big show with a lot of eyes on them, and they drew very well. I think the fact that they topped 3,300 people at Budokan for Stardom to do that, I think that that's a win.
I think without a pandemic, like next time they want to run a building that size, I think they have a very good chance, if they keep the momentum that they're on right now, that they can draw like, I don't know if they're going to draw capacity in a place like Budokan, but I do think they can at the very least double this attendance.
Two more things to get to before we wrap things up. All Japan has announced the lineup for their annual Carnival tournament. It's going to start April the 9th and run through May the 3rd. And this year, they're running one block. It will feature Suwama, Kohei Sato, Kento Miyahara, Yuma Aoyagi, Koji Doi, Shuji Ishikawa, Jake Lee, Shotaro Ashino, and I know you're excited about this one, WH, Shinjiro Otani.
Yes, Shinjiro Otani and his dad haircut. I love it, John.
What can we expect from Shinjiro Otani? This is going to be quite the march through this month for Shinjiro Otani at this age.
Well, how old is he now?
Let's look him up. He's this guy, an all-time great junior heavyweight. So he was born in 1972. So he's 48.
He's 48 and he's still fucking awesome, John. Like the times that I've seen, cause he's in 0-1. I don't get to really watch a lot of 0-1 because for the most part, 0-1 is kind of shit. Don't at me, folks. Don't at me, 0-1 fans. But he's still awesome. When he ventures outside of 0-1 to have like matches with other wrestlers and other companies, he always looks good. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people he's definitely going to look a lot better than Keiji Muto.
He could end up being the story of this carnival. When you look at the opponents that he has, dude, an Otani and a Shino match. I always like when you have one of those in here where it's all new matchups, and Otani is like, he's not going to win this thing, but he's going to be must watch on all of these days of like, he's certainly got my curiosity to be here.
My sleeper match with Otani that I think is going to be a banger is him and Yuma Aoyagi.
Yeah, I could say, think of like some of these people, like wrestling Otani is like going to be a pretty cool deal for some of these people.
Oh, definitely, for sure. But I like the fact that it's one block, John. I think you have a tighter block, and you eliminate like the chances of like having some really bad matches. I don't see too many opportunities to have bad matches. Like I don't know Koji Doi. He's kind of like hit and miss sometimes, but I think with the right people, he'll generally turn in a decent performance at the very least. And I don't think he won't Daichi Hashimoto this tournament. Let me just say that. But I think my prediction for the winner is the new heelish Jake Lee with his new Shinsuke Nakamura-like pants. Not the baggy shit ones, the tight ones that Nakamura wore when he came back from Mexico the first time. He looks fucking awesome. I like this new group, Total Eclipse. He stole the Enfant Terrible, unit from Ashino, and I think he's going to win the Carnival. I think he's going to dethrone Suwama finally, and I think they're going to build towards him and Ashino as the big program going forward after that.
So the first night, April 9th, has Suwama versus Sato, Zeus versus Miyahara, Yuma Aoyagi versus Shinjiro Otani. So you're going to get WH's sleeper match on the first night. Ishikawa versus Koji Doi, and Jake Lee versus Shotaro Ashino. So you'll get anywhere from 4 to 5 matches per night throughout the Carnival. I think
that first night sounds fucking awesome, John. Kaito Miyahara versus Zeus, always a great match. Can I just recommend a match I recently saw from Shinkiba First Ring? It's from the March 6th show at Shinkiba First Ring. It's next stream, Atsuki Aoyagi, Yuma Aoyagi, and Kendo Miyahara in a 6-man tag against the Purple Haze team of Shigehiro Irie, Izanagi, and Zeus. And John, if just watch from the get-go, it starts off with Zeus versus Yuma Aoyagi, and it's so awesome. They're just like, they just hate each other, and they're just beating the shit out of each other. And just the rest of the match is awesome as well. It's definitely watch that over anything else. You don't have to watch anything else on the show, including the main event. Just skip that. Just watch the 6-man.
Well, you did send me that match, which I have not seen. However, I did watch the tag match from Noah on this past weekend for the GHC tag titles. Do you want to describe the ending to this match? It actually made me angry watching it.
So I apologize, John. I sent you that match and I said this was awesome, but I knew the ending would likely have that effect on you, create that emotion in you. And so I apologize for that, but I think it's still an awesome tag team match, and
it's a great match, but I hated this ending.
I know. And I both hate it, but I kind of thought it was really cool as well, but I don't want to see like that ever again. So basically it's Kiyomiya from the Aggression. Him and Nakajima have reformed the Aggression, and I love this tag team, John. I love their first run together because one, it's a natural pairing because they were both trained by Kensuke Sasaki, and they split up and they reformed, and I'm just so happy that the Aggression are back. But I think Kiyomiya's got Sugiura, him and Sakuraba were, of course, the tag team champions at the time, in kind of like this, seated kind of, I think the Indian Death Lock. And at one point,
they call it the prison break, the
prison lock, I think. And Sugiura is like kind of trying to get up to alleviate the pressure. And then basically Kiyomiya just kind of he shoot headbutts him so hard, he busts his own head open. I think he legit knocked out Sugiura, and the referees just stopped the match.
It was just brutal. Like he's instantly, like his head is cut open from this headbutt, this shoot headbutt. Man, it just took me right back to Okada and Shibata. I just do not need to see these. But it was so, and that was the finish. That was it. It was like this knockout finish while he had him in the submission.
It's probably the most violent thing I've ever seen. I've seen wrestling this year. And not that I've seen the AW joke of a main event with the bomb, but I heard that was pretty violent. But I don't care how violent that was. This one legit headbutt was more violent than anything I've ever seen. Not ever seen, but just seen this year in wrestling.
I'm stunned that this finish didn't get more attention on it over the past week.
Me too. I I think I thought it would have been gift like crazy, but you know what? Sparklers and a wet fart of an explosion, kind of just took everyone's attention, John.
This same show, which is the setup, we'll talk about the show coming up this Sunday. It also featured Keiji Muto, Naomichi Marufuji, and Masato Tanaka beating Kaito Kiyomiya, Go Shiozaki, and Yoshiki Inamura, with Muto submitting Inamura. Keno defended the national title, beating Kendo Kashin. And earlier in the show, WH Park's, not his pick for Wrestler of the Year, Kazuyuki Fujita beat Manabu Soya with a powerbomb, and that will set up Kano and Fujita for the national title as the next program, for that championship.
Yeah, I'm so excited about that match. I can't even, I have to correct myself, John. I know what drew attention away from the shoot headbutt. It was Keiji Muto attempting and failing spectacularly to do his handspring elbow into the corner.
That was tough.
And it was so embarrassing because that thing was fucking gift beyond crazy. More than probably the AEW Barbed Deathmatch thing.
So on that note, Sunday is the Noah show in Fukuoka, with Muto making his first defense of the title against Kaito Kiyomiya, who he beat last year. And I am not sensing a title change coming this quickly, WH.
Someone threatened to have a match with him. I think it was Jun Akiyama. So I could totally see him beating. I
think Muto's getting a run with this belt. I don't see them doing it so quickly, even though I would argue Kiyomiya should probably be the one to beat him, but I imagine he loses this one, and he has to lose because God knows they cannot do a draw with Muto in 2021. And yeah, maybe it's Kiyomiya has to go on a much longer journey back to this title. I don't know what the booking of this will be, but I would be very surprised to see Muto drop the belt so quickly.
I just think it's so terrible if he loses, like Kiyomiya loses to Muto again, especially for, with the heavyweight title on at line. But I can see Cyber Agent trying to
they just drew 4,000 built around Muto. It's just, I don't think they're going to, this very much feels like that Hulk Hogan reign when he came back in 2002 and they put the belt on him, and to them, they did take the belt off him 3 weeks later. I don't think that one's going to happen here with Muto. I do think they're going to try and get as much, the guy signed a 2-year deal, right? What do you do with him after this title reign?
Well, here's the thing is the thing is Cyber Agent has their big, Saitama Arena show, which is going to have all 3 of their brands, NJPW, DDT, and Noah. And they say they're going to have cross promotional matches. And, they have to draw people to the Saitama Super Arena during a pandemic.
In June.
So what would be a big match that they could do? Jun Akiyama, who is the DDT KOD openweight champion, versus the GHC National Heavyweight Champion, Keiji Muto, legend versus legend. And maybe, Akiyama's going to win the title again from Muto. And then can do him going through as a DDT roster member, not as a Noah member. So they can still have the interpromotional aspect, kind of the invader angle with Akiyama if he wins the title, against Go Shiozaki, against Nakajima. And then I would build up Kiyomiya somehow back to number one contendership, even though he's lost to a 58-year-old man twice. I don't know. We'll see. It's at least fascinating to discuss, isn't it?
Yeah, I want to see how it goes down on Sunday before we judge, but that is happening. Kind of under the radar, but on Sunday, Stardom's doing a show, and there will be a 3-way involving their top 3 champions with Hayashi Shita, Tom Nakano, and Natsupoi. And that sounds like that could be a great match.
That sounds like a great match. One thing I forgot to mention in our Stardom talk was that I think the direction Tom has to go in with the Wonder of Stardom title is to do a rematch with Mayu Iwatani. I talked about there's this awesome 15-minute time limit draw between these two, and I want to see another match with stakes attached to it and have a longer time limit to it. And I think the Wonder Stardom title match between Tam Nakano and Mayu Iwatani, it has to be it. And I think that will be an excellent match, I think. And I think if built correctly, and there's so much history between Mayu Iwatani and Tam Nakano that it can draw really well for Stardom.
Well, there you go, everybody. That is going to wrap up this month's edition of Post Pro Res. A lot of interesting stuff coming up. Will you be watching this Noah card on Sunday?
Yeah, probably at some point. I don't know if I'm going to watch it live or not. Maybe. Definitely at some point I will, John. Probably not everything. Like, honestly, like the main
What
event.
have they announced for this show? Like, I can't even find the card for this. I found like 2 matches announced.
Oh, you want to run it down?
If you've got the card, I would love to hear it
it's on the Fight TV site for this show. So 6-man tag team match: Shuhei Taniguchi, Hajime Ohara, and Yohei versus Yoshiki Inamura, Kinya Okada, and Yasutaka Yano. So kind of veterans versus the young boys. Singles match: Akitoshi Saito, Y, versus Muhammad Yone, Y. And then they've listed this match twice as both a singles and a tag team match, which one's bad enough. Singles match: Yoshinari Ogawa versus Junta Miyawaki. That should be fun, at least. I think Miyawaki should get a push. Beat Ogawa, the veteran. 6-man tag team match: Keno and Hao and Neo versus Fujita, Kendo Kashin, and Nosao Rangai. So
all your favorites.
Jesus Christ. GHC Junior Heavyweight Championship match: Seiki Yoshioka versus Atsushi Kotoge. That should be fun. That should be good.
Yep.
Special 8-man tag team match: Katsuhiko Nakajima and Mr. Headbutt Masaki Kitamiya, Manabu Soya, and I hate this guy, Tarusuke versus Go Shiozaki and Naomichi Marufuji and Takashi Sugiura and Kotaro Suzuki. So, 7 out of 8, not too bad. And then finally, our main event: 58 years old, Keiji Muto, hottest wrestler in Noah, versus some has-been named Kaito Kiyomiya.
Well, there you go. It's quite the polarizing show that they've got. But as WH mentioned, it's on Fight TV, and they do have the regular English commentary now. And I thought that was like a big enhancement overall that Noah has now with the English commentary for these shows now. They had them for last weekend and this one coming up.
Yeah, I think, Stuart Fulton and Mark Pickering I really enjoy their work. I'm not a huge fan of, I just tend to prefer Japanese commentary, but if they're on, I'll listen to it, because I do think they really enhance it for the English speaking, fans of Pro Wrestling Noah.
And it's Wei Ting's birthday on Sunday, so what more than a successful title defense for Keiji Muto could you
happy
provide?
Belated to you, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much.
I did message you privately, because I know
you did.
I think that I just thought, I just want to see it publicly. I'll just send it to you privately, but I gotta send something publicly to Mr. Wei Ting, because he doesn't have those reservations. Probably I'll say to him during, when we record the last episode of Rewind Division this Saturday.
That's right. Yes. So check out all of that WH has going on. So on Saturday, it will be a new edition of the long and winding Royal Road with Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics joining WH Park. And what is on the menu as you guys travel back 25 years?
Well, first of all, I think it's going to be really interesting for those people who are familiar with Brandon. He doesn't talk about the business end of things here. We actually talk about the wrestling, which I'm a big fan of his WrestleNomics stuff. I love when he comes on the show with you, especially at Post Wrestling. I just thought I'm going to reach out to him, because he's always liking the stuff I talk about with All Japan, with the long and winding road stuff. So I reached out to him and said, do you want to talk about a match with me? Pick one. And he picked, the Real World Tag League Finals from 1996, Misawa Akiyama versus Kawada and Taue. And I don't know the last time I'd seen this match. It was really fresh for me to see it again. I love this match, John. I gave it 5 stars. Easily one of the best tag matches I've ever seen in my life. Go watch it, everyone. I put a link up on on my Twitter, and it's going to be in the show description as well. Watch it first and then listen to the show. But we talk about Sabu in All Japan in this tournament, John, because there's a highlight package of the tournament before we get to the actual match. And my God, what a train wreck Sabu was. And it's like, wow, I kind of wonder why he burned every bridge he ever had in Japan. And, maybe based on like this performance that I saw. Actually, Alan Farrell put up some GIFs of like his involvement in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and it was as spectacularly bad as the stuff you'll see in the highlight package for this All Japan tournament.
That sounds wonderful. Well, one of the best parts about the long and winding Royal Road, then there's many great things, but All Japan Pro Wrestling, this era, very, very user friendly in terms of accessibility online.
It is, and if you know the right people, John, there's even more stuff that's not out there that's accessible to you, but I'm not going to talk any more about that.
He is the invisible hand, WH Park, and then he concludes the weekend with the finale of WandaVision. Him and Wei Ting will be reviewing the making of WandaVision documentary, which should be very interesting. And then next weekend, you guys are kicking off a whole new series. You're starting from scratch.
Yeah, we're gonna start reviewing the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show. We're still thinking of a name. I don't know if he's put up a contest in the forum yet. I just don't want Brandon from New Jersey like sending me ideas, and as well, no more ideas from John Cena either. They're all bad and they're really annoying me. So just send them to Wei if you have ideas for I'll probably veto if he says, "Oh, this is from Brandon." I'll say no. This is from John Cena. No. Otherwise, I like both of you guys. I'm just joking, except for like, I'm going to veto all your show name suggestions.
So check all of that out. Send your suggestions to Wei Ting. You can follow the man at WHPark9, the number 9. And we will be back in a couple of weeks with another edition of Post Pro Res, probably in time for the Carnival, maybe coming out of Sakura Genesis. So that is to be determined. But check out all of WH's work at postwrestling.com. He is churning out quality content on a weekly basis on the site.
Buy the t-shirt, everyone.
Store.postwrestling.com, 20% off for all patrons. Check it out now. Don't look like a jobber.